Opening. The shock that shook WWE, June 25, 2007. For millions of wrestling fans around the world, it began as an ordinary summer day, but by evening, the news would break, and nothing in professional wrestling would ever be the same. Chris Benoit, a world champion, a technical genius, and one of WWE's most respected superstars, was found dead inside his home in Fayetteville, Georgia. The announcement alone stunned the industry. Benoit had been scheduled to perform at WWE's pay-per-view event that very weekend, and no one suspected anything was wrong. But the shock was only beginning. As investigators entered the house, what they uncovered behind those doors was far worse. The bodies of Benoit's wife, Nancy, and their 7-year-old son, Daniel. What at first looked like the tragic passing of a beloved athlete was revealed to be something far darker, a nightmare of violence and death. The wrestling world was paralyzed. Fans flooded message boards and news channels, searching for answers. Fellow wrestlers, many of them Benoit's close friends, were blindsided. To them, Benoit wasn't just another performer. He was a locker room leader, a man they admired for his intensity and discipline. Now that same man was at the center of an unthinkable crime scene. In a single night, the legacy of a wrestling hero crumbled. What had once been a career defined by perseverance and respect was now forever stained, replaced by one of the darkest tragedies in the history of sports. Chris Benoit, a hero in the eyes of the fans. Chris Benoit was born in Montreal, Canada in 1967 and later moved with his family to Edmonton, where he grew up. From an early age, he was captivated by professional wrestling. His idols were Bret, the Hitman Hart, and the Dynamite Kid, men celebrated not only for their charisma, but for their unmatched technical mastery inside the ring. Benoit was small in stature, but what he lacked in size, he made up for in relentless drive. He spent countless hours in the gym, sculpting his body, and devoted himself to perfecting every move. His intensity and discipline quickly set him apart from the rest. In the 1980s, Benoit traveled to Japan to train with New Japan Pro Wrestling. There, he learned discipline, resilience, and precision. Under the mask as the Pegasus Kid, he dazzled audiences with speed and technical brilliance. Japan embraced him, not just as a foreigner, but as a craftsman who lived for the sport. Returning to North America, Benoit's reputation continued to rise through ECW and WCW. In Extreme Championship Wrestling, his toughness earned him the nickname the Canadian Crippler, after a devastating match left an opponent seriously injured. In World Championship Wrestling, he faced legends like Ric Flair and Sting, proving he belonged among the very best. Finally, his relentless journey reached its peak in WWE. At WrestleMania 19 in 2004, Benoit faced Triple H and Shawn Michaels in a triple threat match. In the climax, he locked Triple H in the crippler crossface until the champion tapped out. Madison Square Garden erupted. For the fans, it was more than a victory, it was the triumph of perseverance, proof that sacrifice and passion could carry a man all the way to the top. For years, Chris Benoit stood as the embodiment of wrestling itself, fierce, disciplined, and uncompromising. To millions, he wasn't just a wrestler, he was a hero. The family tragedy. In June 2007, Chris Benoit appeared to be living a life that, from the outside, seemed normal. To fans and colleagues, he was still a respected WWE superstar, booked for upcoming matches, and admired for his discipline in the ring. But behind closed doors, cracks were beginning to show. Friends later recalled that Benoit had grown distant and withdrawn. He looked exhausted, carrying the weight of years of injuries and emotional strain. His marriage with Nancy was troubled, marked by bitter arguments and unresolved anger. Then came the final weekend that changed everything. Friday, June 22nd. Nancy was the first victim. Investigators later pieced together a grim scene. She had been bound at her wrists and ankles before being strangled. Bruises on her body showed she had fought desperately for her life, but Benoit overpowered her. Her body was found wrapped in a towel, left in a spare bedroom. Next to her lay a Bible. To detectives, this chilling detail was telling. It suggested not an act of sudden rage, but something deliberate, staged, almost ritualistic. Saturday, June 23rd. Daniel, only 7 years old, was next. Toxicology reports later revealed that he had been sedated with Xanax before Benoit ended his life. Daniel had been born with a condition that slowed his growth, making him appear younger than his age. Some speculated that Benoit feared his son might endure the same painful path of physical suffering that had defined his own career. But to those who knew him, Daniel was a sweet, innocent child who loved wrestling. He idolized his father, often parading around the house with Chris's replica championship belt strapped proudly around his waist. A Bible was placed beside him too. Sunday, June 24th. The house fell silent. That evening, Benoit walked into his basement gym. There, using the pulley cord of his weight machine, he hanged himself. He left behind no suicide note. Instead, he sent a series of unsettling text messages to colleagues, directions to his home, as if he wanted someone to discover the horror inside once it was all over. Monday, June 25th. When Benoit failed to appear at WWE's scheduled events, company officials grew worried and requested a wellness check. Police arrived at the Benoit home. What they discovered was beyond comprehension. Nancy's body upstairs, Daniel in his bedroom, and Chris in the basement. 3 lives extinguished, a family destroyed. The wrestling world was thrown into chaos. That same night, unaware of the grim details, WWE aired a tribute to Benoit. Video packages celebrated his greatest victories. Wrestlers shared emotional testimonials. Fans wept as they remembered his legacy. But within 24 hours, the truth surfaced, and everything changed. The tribute was pulled from future broadcasts, Benoit's name erased from WWE's website, his matches removed from highlight reels. His legacy, once celebrated, was buried. It was not just the death of a wrestler, it was the death of an image, of a legacy, of the belief that the hero who fought with such passion inside the ring could also be a hero outside of it. In one weekend, that illusion was shattered forever. Causes and controversies. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the world searched for answers. How could Chris Benoit, a man once admired for his discipline and passion, commit such horrific acts? Some pointed to steroids, a constant shadow in professional wrestling. Reports confirmed that anabolic steroids were found in Benoit's home. Media outlets rushed to label the crime as a case of roid rage, a violent outburst caused by steroid abuse. The theory dominated headlines, painting Benoit as another victim of a reckless industry that glorified strength over health. But deeper investigations revealed more complex truths. Benoit had suffered multiple concussions throughout his career. He performed high-risk moves night after night, diving headbutts, dangerous suplexes, chair shots to the head. In 2007, tests on his brain revealed severe damage comparable to that of an 85-year-old Alzheimer's patient. Doctors diagnosed him with chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, a condition linked to depression, memory loss, and violent impulses. Others highlighted the immense pressure of the wrestling lifestyle, constant travel, physical pain, lack of rest, and an industry culture that demanded toughness at any cost. Benoit had also lost 2 close friends in the years before, Eddie Guerrero in 2005 and Brian Pillman in 1997. Friends said Benoit never recovered from Guerrero's death, describing him as broken, distant, and haunted. The tragedy sparked fierce debate. Was Benoit solely responsible for his actions, or was he also a casualty of an industry that ignored the mental and physical well-being of its stars? Was this the story of one man's descent, or the dark reflection of an entire sport? Consequences and legacy. In the immediate aftermath of June 25, 2007, WWE faced a crisis unlike anything before. That Monday night, with incomplete information, they aired a tribute show in Chris Benoit's honor. Superstars shared heartfelt memories. Video packages celebrated his championship victories. Commentators praised him as one of the greatest technicians ever to step into the ring. For a moment, it felt like a final farewell to a fallen hero. But within 24 hours, the truth emerged. Police confirmed it was a double murder-suicide. The man they honored had killed his wife and son before taking his own life. The shock was devastating. WWE immediately pulled the tribute, erased Benoit's profile from their website, and banned his name from future broadcasts. On their streaming archives, Benoit's matches were buried, edited, or left in shadows. To many fans, it felt as if his entire career had been erased from history. Inside the industry, reactions were divided. Some colleagues were in disbelief, insisting Benoit had been quiet, disciplined, and fiercely devoted to wrestling. Others admitted they had noticed troubling signs, mood swings, injuries that never healed, and the crushing depression after Eddie Guerrero's death in 2005. Many wrestlers confessed they had once idolized him, but now felt betrayed. Beyond Benoit himself, the tragedy forced wrestling to change. WWE introduced a stricter wellness policy, regular drug testing for steroids and banned substances, mandatory concussion evaluations, with wrestlers removed from matches if diagnosed, fines, suspensions, or firings for violations, a ban on chair shots to the head, and tighter rules on dangerous maneuvers. It wasn't just WWE. Across sports and entertainment, the Benoit case ignited new conversations about brain trauma, athlete welfare, and mental health. Medical experts pointed to his severe brain damage as evidence the wrestling business needed reform. Legislators debated regulations on combat sports. Families of athletes demanded more protection and transparency. For fans, his legacy remained conflicted. Benoit's matches were still masterpieces of technical wrestling, yet few could watch them without remembering the tragedy. To some, he was a monster. To others, a broken man consumed by pain. Ultimately, Chris Benoit's name became one of wrestling's deepest scars. His story not only reshaped WWE's policies, but also changed the way the world looked at the hidden cost of glory inside the ring. Ending. A haunting reminder. Chris Benoit's story stands as one of the darkest chapters in sports history. Once celebrated as a hero in the ring, his final actions erased everything he had built, leaving behind only grief and unanswered questions. For WWE, it was a wound that would never fully heal. For fans, it was a betrayal too painful to reconcile. And for Benoit's family, it was an unspeakable loss. Yet beyond the horror lies a brutal truth. Benoit was not only a villain, but also a cautionary tale. His downfall forced the world to confront uncomfortable realities about brain trauma, about mental health, and about the human cost of pushing athletes beyond their limits. Today, his name is rarely spoken in wrestling. His matches, once masterpieces, now linger in the shadows, remembered, but never celebrated. And yet, the lessons from his collapse continue to shape the industry. The Chris Benoit case endures as a haunting reminder. Behind the bright lights of the arena are fragile human beings. Heroes can fall, legends can break, and when the system fails to protect them, the cost can be catastrophic.